Okay, I'd like to make a motion to open the meeting.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have the proof of mailings?
Yes, earlier today, it was indicated to me, and I have proof of the receipts, that were 9 neighbors that were notified. They received 8 return receipts back from the neighbors. Gary Parr is the only one that did not acknowledge the letter.
Okay. And who is going to present for the applicant?
I will. I'm William Boyce.
Okay,
You'd
I
like
guess
me
you
to
would-
commence to presenting?
okay,
All right.
then present.
All right. I'm going to shift this over here, bring my drawing on top of my screen, and then ask permission to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes,
Okay, good. So I'll navigate. I'll zoom in, I'll zoom out, I'll pan around and use this little hand here to show you what I'm discussing in lieu of a pointer. That's okay. Briefly, I'd like to just thank the board for attending tonight's meeting. I know it takes time out of your personal lives, and I know it's important. I know your community is important, and obviously the environment is, especially in Tuxedo Park, as it's a wonderful place. I've had the privilege of working in that area for a while, and it's just, I like working there every time I go there. My name is William Boyce. I'm a landscape architect. I'm working with the applicant. And, you know, when I was first introduced to the project, and the impetus for the project was to create a place for the family to get down to the water and experience the water in a way that was different from what was there. I was happy to accommodate that goal. As you know, the site has been, you know, recently, not so recently, but purchased by a new owner. Prior to that, the site was denuded. I heard from neighbors and people in the community feeling as though it was strip mined. I heard that term. I heard denuded. All those pretty much apply. Since the new owner has been there, they've worked to remedy some of those situations. However, you know, there is still one big scar on the landscape, or maybe a few that need attending to, but one in particular is the gravel pathway that extends within the riparian buffer all the way down to their dock. So that is where I'm pointing now. The objective is to provide access to the homeowners in a way that's safer. That's a kind of a gravelly slope that doesn't feel comfortable walking on, while simultaneously restoring that riparian buffer, which is very important to the water quality within Lake Tuxedo. There's a few strategies we'd like to use to accomplish that. One would be to remove all of that gravel and loose aggregate that's in that area and very erosive. Two would be to pull back and kind of make the existing riprap in that area less linear so that it fits the visual mosaic of what is there, and then plant lots and lots of plants. Now, the owners purchased this home specifically because they love the lake, they love the view of the lake, they wanted to experience the lake with their kids. So we would like to provide them access, but not in the way that it's currently laid out. The goal is to provide a more sinuous walkway that fits into the topography, maintains all of the existing large rock outcroppings. We wouldn't be proposing to do anything with that, instead work around them and work within them, because we think that that adds richness to the experience of getting to the dock from the larger gravel path that's up here. From here to the dock is about, in a straight line, it's about 100 feet. But a straight line would look horrible from Lake Tuxedo. So the idea is to maintain, this is just a footpath that runs along the water. It's soil with white pine needles on it and leaves, and that would remain as such. From there, there would be a set of steps that would go up the embankment where it's the most steep. These would be granite steps with existing boulders next to them. There's no concrete involved. There would not be any gravel because we're trying to minimize what we're importing. It would be rock that is harvested from a quarry that is within, I don't know, it's about within 10 miles of the site. So it's definitely local material. And then the pathway turns in this direction, goes in front of this large rock outcropping. It has to go up a couple more steps. Then this is the area where we'd like to sit and make a little bit more formal. Right now, this whole area is kind of just gravel and it washes out. We'd like to have a stone patio here, which is again dry set. Water goes through the half-inch joints between the dry set bluestone pieces and into the gravel aggregate, which is below. The vision is to take this material, this base material here, and consolidate it to make this gravel below here and make it level. There'd be a little pathway to the lawn so the kids can run around, and then there'd be a pathway up and out of the riparian buffer. I know the riparian buffer is important. Our goal is to restore the riparian buffer within this large extent. The majority of the restoration occurs very close to the water's edge and then extends outward. Our new steps would, we believe, be less invasive and would flow with the landscape. Very small equipment would be used to install those steps as we're keeping the scale of them modest. Once the pathway is removed and soil is reinstalled, which would be from Tuxedo Park and other parts of the property itself, we would then endeavor to mix up the stones on the top surface and install quite a list of proposed plants. So I totaled up the plants, and I just have to refer to my other sheet. So there are 154 trees and shrubs to be installed within the riparian buffer, all of which are native. Oh, I can show you, I'm sorry. You see them, okay. There are to be about 90 perennials and woody plants installed within a rain garden, which is intended to intercept the water that goes towards the riparian buffer from the lawn, and I'll get into that in a minute. And then throughout the riparian buffer, there are another 546 smaller ferns, switchgrass, cardinal flower, Joe Pye weed, and carex. They're all native. They all will work beautifully within what's there now, woven into the existing plant material. The moss that's there now, we would not be interrupting any of that, only adding to it in small pockets by hand, so as to increase the biodiversity within that buffer, and which, as we all know, will filter the water. Right now, if I could bring a photograph in, I could show you what the site conditions look like firsthand. Just please bear with me. I want to grab the correct photograph. These may be a little out of order, but this is the pathway that leads to the dock. Here's the dock. This is the gravelly area that I was discussing. This would all be removed. This riprap, in effect, which was used to retain this, will no longer be necessary to retain anything. It'll be kind of mixed in with the plants, not to smother any plants, but very carefully. Some can be pulled out also. This material down here would retain, however, any invasives such as this. This is called pokeweed. That would be removed because it is invasive, and if left unmanaged, it will grow all over and take over all the native plants there because it's far more invasive than anything that's native. This would all remain. We're not touching any of this. We would, we would be adding some diversity to that. Right now, it has some existing carex and some mountain laurel. That's about it. Further here on the site, there's a lot of moss, which would remain. This is the view from above. So you can see all of this, which is very visible from the lake as you go boating on by. This would be removed. In its place, there would be a more subtle pathway kind of extending along this way. Fortunately, I don't have a great picture of that from this vantage point because it's blocked by the topography. This is an example of some of the erosion which happens and pours down into the space. This would be remedied and intercepted by the rain garden and the work that we're doing, because we're looking to eliminate this erosive material, which ultimately would end up in the reservoir. Again, another view of much the same. This is the approximate location of where the slight depression / rain garden would be, because as we all know, to keep the lawn alive in the Northeast and looking green and vibrant, that requires some level of care. And any of that fertilizer, or which the either current owner or future owners would be using, that would be intercepted and absorbed in the biomass of the plants living in the rain garden, which would be right around here. This is an example of some of the material on the ground plane. Again, all of this would be remaining.
Recording in progress.
Is everything okay?
Yes, we just had somebody enter the room. It's
Okay. Thank you. So again, these existing boulders would all remain. All this looks the same. There might just be some steps added within this context, which I don't think you'd ever have a complete view of the steps from the reservoir. It's not our intention. We just want to be able to get there safely. The idea would be to walk along the face of these rocks, add a little deer gate here, and then go down here, leaving all the trees, and just sneak that little set of steps down there to get around. And from my understanding, any work within the riparian buffer that's what's frowned upon, but largely I think the majority of the effort here is actually in restoring the riparian buffer so that there's a better balance between nature and what we're proposing. This is me measuring all the trees. This is what the neighbor's property looks like. This is our property. And that is all the photographs I have at the moment. Let's see. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see more of the plan. And then I'll open it up to everybody. Of course, we would be using erosion control measures to make sure that the water is protected during the course of the work, and even can retain those measures as long as necessary till we know that erosion is not going to happen. There's tree planting details and landscape restoration notes. This is the actual plan itself. Oops, too big. I want to make it smaller. There are far fewer trees being removed in our revised drawings than there had been in the previous submission. Now we're only looking to provide a small view out from this area of the lake so we can enjoy it. Additionally, those trees that would be lost would be compensated for by our 154 some odd native plants that would include oaks, because we do know how important oaks are. Your board pointed that out, and we're respectful of that. We want to definitely accommodate the needs of the board and nature. And I agree, oaks are amazing and very important. As a landscape architect, that's what I do. That kind of concludes my initial presentation. I'm sure there will be questions, so I leave it to the board to further the conversation.
Elise, we should open it up to the public at this point.
Yes, you can open it to the public, or you can open it to your board and then open it to the public.
Why don't we have the board at least ask a couple questions at this point, and then we'll open it up to the public. Bill, William, one of the you have the note here about the riprap to remain, which is actually very unsightly at this point, which is the riprap that's along the lakeside.
Yeah, that, I know in testimony, I just said that we would be mixing that up and kind of pulling it out. We're not opposed to pulling it out. I just don't want to do more damage to the plants that are kind of restoring themselves in and around that. I'm sure there's a pretty careful way where we can fix that, but I don't want to create an erosive condition on that steep slope. We do have a 546 perennials to plant in that area, so I'm sure that as we take out the pathway, we'd be pulling, my vision was to pull some of that riprap around, and I can renote that. That's not.
Right, because right now, quite frankly, when you look at it from the lake, it looks like a wall.
Yeah, that's, again, we don't want that. That's something that I want to fix.
And I guess you should maybe just point out the trees that you are looking to remove and the size of them for everybody's benefit.
I'll do that. The trees with the X's, such as this one, this one, this one, and then I'll refer to the list. Okay, there's 4. They're right here in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are noted as T10, T12, T14, and where did the other one go? T13. So T10, 12, 13, and 14. And I can refer to the existing tree schedule to point those out.
Can you also pull the photo that shows those trees?
I will be happy to do that. I think my tree schedule is on my other plan. So T10 is a 14-inch oak. T12 is a 14-inch oak. T13 is a 13-inch beech. T14 is a 19-inch oak. Within that buffer, there are a total of 22 trees, 4 of which are removed, which I believe is within the ordinance's provision. But wanting to be good neighbors and good stewards, just also wanting a view, we were hoping to mitigate the loss of those trees by planting 150 4 other trees, so as to mitigate that and add more biodiversity and create a lower shrub layer and an understory tree layer, and ultimately the larger climax forest layer, because right now there's few layers. Okay, so now I can show you the photograph to illustrate that. The photograph, I want to expand. There we go. Those trees are right in this area here. So remaining would be all the trees along here, and then all of these trees here. So it's really these 4 right here. And then again, there would be an understory shrub and tree layer complementing the balance of the site.
The other question I have is the existing path that comes down from the home, what you call your existing gravel path, and a lot of that falls outside of the 100-foot setback. I guess that's part of it that's in there right now, correct?
Yeah, this path falls entirely outside of the setback. In
Right.
fact, if you can see where my cursor is, like right around here, this is all disturbed land, which my plan doesn't really capture all
No,
that
that's
accurately.
exactly what my question was going to be, is that,
Yeah.
quite frankly, I think if we're looking to restore, I think that area would need to be addressed also.
Yeah, if it's okay, I'll switch back to my plan and I'll try to show you where that is in 2D. There's a lot of I have 3 screens and I'm using all of them right now, so bear with me. I'm trying to doing my best. That area is right around here, if you can see where my cursor is. So our intention is with that area is to come down the gravel path, which we're looking to secure, and that again, that's outside of the buffer. The buffer is this magenta line. Eliminate this cinder path that goes around out of the buffer and then in the buffer. Add a lawn within this space here, and then that lawn would be, non-erosive. And then these are carex, Pennsylvanica, and this is all native, low-growing plants. They're like small grasses that are semi-evergreen. They would be through there. And then Juniperus virginiana, which are native juniper. It's their tree form of a juniper, and they attract wildlife, and they're just great for the environment all around. So yes, we would be restoring that area that's in the photograph.
And then to the area also that would be outside of the 100-foot too, where you have the note lawnmower access slope
Yes.
1 on 3 or less. That where that note is also a very visually bad area.
Yes, I think this picture kind of hints at that. We have our friend, the Japanese, the pokeweed here, so that needs to be removed. This rock would stay, but really from this rock wrapping all the way around, all of that would be improved, planted. It would either be lawn or plants. I have plants along the edge. All of these plants, these are myrica bayberry. They're phenomenal. I love them. These are Ilex verticillata. That's called winterberry, so they'll have red berries in the winter, which the robins will be looking for. And this is just Panicum virgatum, which is a switchgrass right here on the end. And that'll all soften the terminus of this wall. And then between the wall and the carex, it'll all be grass.
I guess the question I have is where you currently have, where it says lawnmower access slope, is that all currently just a rock outcropping now, or is there an ability to add vegetation there as well?
Yeah, there's just one big rock there, right here. Right in
I'm
this
thinking
area.
actually to the right of that. I can have a, sorry.
I know I do the same.
Above the path.
Right in this area?
Keep going to your right. This area in here, right? It's all kind of barren and, looks like a strip mine from the
Yeah, actually, I have addressed that to some extent. I'll show you where I have 50 ferns going in there, kind of in and
Okay,
around.
I'm sorry. Below that, you see where it says lawnmower access?
Right here.
Keep going down. Yeah, that area in there, is that all rock, or is that an ability to add vegetation in there as well?
Yes, sorry, I just had a visitor. Yes, whatever is not lawn would be plants, and yeah, that whole area is intended to be restored.
Okay.
Well, we should have that should be shown on the drawing then also.
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's existing lawn to remain. I can just put a note, existing terrible lawn to be improved or something of that nature.
And I guess at this point, before we give it to the public, and my other thing is that it's a little. This should have had a topo to go along with it. I mean, do you have the topo, or?
Excuse me.
I mean, because you're pretty steep. You're pretty steep access here, and when you look at it, it's a little hard to tell whether some of the steps are going up or down, or what the grades are, and what percentage of slope in those particular areas.
I agree. I would have loved to have had the benefit of topo on it. I've been performing work as a design build firm for 25 years, and so in my experience, oftentimes we don't have topo, but all of these risers are 6 inches, and I can pull a string level from here and do it based on spot elevations. And I really just want to weave it in the existing slope, and I know that that's not going to be a problem for us. I went and I took spot elevations at the bottom of this riser and approximated the location of the top. And I know horizontally I can make those 6-inch risers work to get up there. Then this is pretty flat all the way around. Then these are 4 more risers up. This will all be flat. We use rocks that are on site. This is an existing flat area, pretty flat. And then there's a few more steps up here to get us up to here. So I understand
But
completely.
we're kind of novices sometimes that, we kind of really need to see where the slopes are.
I understand.
Mr.
Any other
Chairman?
questions, quick questions for the board before we turn it over to the public?
I guess in terms of the deer fence, so you're going to remove the one existing large gate, is that right? And put in a smaller gate further to the top of this drawing?
It's a horrible color, and I did a terrible job of illustrating this, but this proposed gate is in yellow.
Yeah.
When I draw, just for the board's edification, my whole screen is black, so yellow really stands out. It looks great. And the black is white, so it's just different. I apologize for that. And then it says here the existing gate to remain. That was just during the course of the work. I can easily just show that to be a small gate, but I think we would prefer to have access here just to get in to maintain this, and then access here as well. It'll just be much more convenient to get in there. Not that we're planning on funneling people through, but to maintain the plants would be helpful. I think their neighbor may also have a gate over here, which I believe they're friends. It might help.
Jake, do you think it'd be helpful to show that photo that you had?
I sent it over to John. Could John show it? John?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Because that kind of gives you a sense of the elevation, I think.
Can you blow it up, John?
What section do you want to look at?
Well, just,
Have it be the whole screen.
yeah, even if you just get the whole screen, right now you got you got your downloads on it.
Oh, is that what you see? Okay.
Yeah, I see half a picture and then the downloads.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can open it first. Oh. Where is it?
Nice sweatshirt, John.
I know. Well, we coordinate, we'll have to call each other again to get a different sweatshirt next time.
That better?
Yeah, you got it.
Much better.
There you go.
So maybe, William, you can just kind of point out where the patio is going and where that barrier is.
Oh.
I wish I had that ability. Can you? How do we do this?
Well, yeah,
Well,
Because John shared
John's
his
gonna have
screen.
to
had
do
the
it, I guess.
picture.
He's got
Yeah.
control of it, right?
William, you
Yeah.
can see my cursor?
I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
A little to the left. Yeah. So basically, if you keep going to the left,
Yeah.
let's use the dock as a starting point. We'll build up from there.
You're down here. It's the dock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the dock, or is the dock a little up to that? I'm having a hard time seeing. I think the dock may be 12 feet.
I believe this is the dock right here
Yes.
during the winter.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
So
So there's the dock.
there's the dock. So
Here's the path.
that, okay, so to the right, I see what you mean about the riprap.
I'm losing your audio, William.
Really? Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, but when you turn to the side, we lost your audio a little bit.
Okay, let me pull this in front of me then.
But your plan shows the path going up this way with the steps, correct?
Yes, we would not be traversing that big rock outcrop there, but
And-
instead we'd be going further to the left of that and
Yeah,
then circling to the right. So it would kind of, yeah, it would go on an angle like that,
hmm
and then it would go at the toe of that larger rock, right?
Yeah.
I think it goes between those rock outcroppings.
Between these two or between these two?
No, I know what happens. Okay. So let's start at the dock again.
Start at the dock.
Go level with the back of the dock. So bring your cursor down about 4 vertical feet. There you go. And now go between the two big trees. Now make a right and go uphill on an angle.
Yeah,
And now it goes right in front of that rock outcrop, but it's just like a path, like it looks now. It wouldn't look any differently.
okay.
Keep
This
going to
way?
the right. Yep, keep perfect. That's where we're walking. And then keep going up a little bit more. All right, now go up a couple steps right there. Go up a couple steps. Now
Mhm.
go to the right. And that's about where that's where our patio would be. Right in
Where
there.
are the 16 risers that make the first elevation change? Back here?
Yes, that's the big elevation change. And then we're at the toe of that rock outcropping. We
Toe of
followed
this.
right along there. So that's all level. We're not changing that. And then
Mhm.
we're just kind of bringing our path up to the patio. And then once we hit the back of the patio, then we kind of go up
Up
again.
there.
Exactly. Yep. And that all stays the way it is. But that big, so you're not going to see a big pathway. Most you'll see are these steps, which I can screen from the lake with my 500 plants.
Mhm.
But that existing stone wall will remain along the lower, yeah, right in that area.
That looks like a stone wall, but as one of your members said, that's actually riprap. It's just like stone on an angle. I think
Right.
I may have a picture illustrating that.
Right.
It's yes, I do. Can I? Would you like me to share my screen?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Uh, share screen. This one. Share. Down. Okay, so that is this.
Okay.
And we can repurpose that and use it as base underneath our patio. And this whole thing goes away. So it's not like this long linear scar across the landscape. And then this would go away too. Some of the rocks should remain because as you can see, it's kind of a rocky topography, but it would be done in a naturalistic fashion. And then it would have many plants planted amongst the rocks.
But this road right here goes away, I think, right? This
This all goes away.
Well, that's
So-
the lower part of the road, not the upper part of the road.
right.
Accurate.
Right, the upper part stays, right.
The upper part stays. But the upper part is actually the same similar riprap that it looks like a wall, but in essence, it's not a wall, correct?
The upper wall, the upper road,
Yeah.
that is a wall. I'm gonna find that now. I know I have a picture of it. This is not the
Oh,
greatest
that
thing.
was okay. That was the picture that you showed us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is an act. Okay, that is a wall, a low wall.
Yeah, and we're determined. We haven't yet figured out a solution for this. We may use gravel lock, which holds things together. It's kind of scary getting down there now, but gravel lock is a pretty cool thing because you mix gravel with a polymer, it glues it all together, and then it's still permeable, and the polymer is non-toxic, so it holds everything together from shifting continually and eroding. We're not sure that's the solution, but we're looking for an environmentally friendly solution. We know paving it's out. You know, we're trying to figure that one out because we don't like this erosion. It's hard to navigate. This would all be repaired though.
Well, that's where the patio is, right?
I'd say the patio's roughly around
Yeah,
here.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Would the patio have to be graded to make it, is it flat enough, or would you have to have a little grading in there for the patio?
We'd have to do a little grading. We'd use a little bit of, we would balance the cut and the fill. We're not importing anything, but we would cut into this area and push this way and then use some of the rocks around this area. We're not proposing any fancy additional walls. It's really intended to be naturalistic.
Okay, I think Elise, we should open it to the public at this point.
Sure.
Okay. Public comments.
Hi there, my name's Christopher Gow. Had the pleasure of seeing the previous version, being on the Board of Architectural Review. So I'm delighted and thrilled that the direction is going in the right direction. The choice of species of plants and replacement trees is fantastic. It really is music to our ears to see the choices you've made. And so we're very appreciative that you took our concerns to heart and made a concerted effort to do so. The only problem that I do have is where the patio is going to be, that's where the 4 trees are going to be removed. And as we stressed in the last meeting, you know, those trees are really champions of pulling their weight in supporting the slope, absorbing the water, giving it the whole, supporting everything. And so removing those would be I still see as very problematic. The view, obviously, I mean, there's quite a view already. Let's call it a partial view. I don't think the removing of those 4 trees would increase it so dramatically that would counterbalance the huge environmental damage that would be done by removing them. Already the branches have been stripped, so there's not lots of branches in the way. So from an ecological point of view, that would be wrong. From an aesthetic point of view, if we're looking not from the McLennan's side, we're sitting enjoying the patio, if we're looking at the McLennan's from the lake, here's an analogy. It would be, I don't know, it's as if, you know, you're going to a ball and, you know, you've got your beautiful diamonds, you've got your earrings and your necklace and all your family jewels, and you forgot to put your tiara on. You've thrown the tiara out. That beautiful canopy of trees above you would be missing. So there is this sort of almost like a platform, like the top of an Aztec ziggurat, or where, you know, you'll be sitting completely exposed to all of us on the lake. Yourself completely exposed to the sun, because you won't be sitting there when it's not sunny, and that those trees will be providing you a lovely shade. Otherwise, it's going to get very hot there. So I really, really would implore that you keep those trees, especially the 19-inch oak tree, the T14 tree, which is quite near the patio, and that would be the one that would provide you with some shade.
Could you point out to me again which 4 trees we're talking about, William, please?
On the plan view or this
Right,
photo?
right, we're looking at right now.
Yeah, these 4 here.
Okay.
So if we analyze these 4 trees, and Christopher, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And I do appreciate trees as well, as we all know. These 4 in particular, this one's displaying suckering branching, as Christopher indicated, or Mr. Cow indicated, you know, they have been stripped of their lower branches. Of course, the loss of any tree is not necessarily the greatest thing, but I know the applicant has made it clear that they really, really like the water, and they are restoring the whole ground plane with copious other plants, all native, and really looking to create more of a layered effect and feel as though that would be compensation. I think that the shade that they would be benefiting from those trees might hit at a certain time of day, but I think most of the day, given the elevated canopy, it's not going to be as wonderful as we would love. But I know that the last time we presented, I think there were 10 or 11 trees to be removed, but after really analyzing what the owner wants, they really want to have an uninterrupted view of the lake from that one spot. So we worked with them and really worked to refine the expectation there, and it's hard to it's hard to hard to keep those trees in that spot with because they just see more water in a contiguous view. That's the position I'm in. So
Anyone else for comment?
Jim Hayes has his hand raised.
Thank you, Jake. I just wanted to make two comments. One is there are topographic maps that I think would be helpful. And in that respect, I'm a little bit concerned about the lawns and the extent of lawn and the slopes on which the lawns are to be planted, because lawns do not impede sheet flow very much. And so in heavy summer downpours, the water is going to run over those lawns and on down and erode or continue all the way to the lake. So I don't know that the lawns are actually in such bad places, but I can't tell without a topographic map how steep the slopes are, where the lawns are. And I think lawns on actually, this is my view, and it's obviously that McLennan's have other views, but I think lawns in this kind of a site are not a very good idea. You really need plants, and you need plants that will have deep roots that will absorb the moisture and impede the flow. I'm very concerned that a fair amount of soil has already been lost from this site and is probably continuing to be lost. And that is a critical to the value of the property, to have it stripped so that you can't grow anything because it's bare rock, and there's already a lot of bare rock. So I think everything should be done to keep the soils from being eroded. And I think the plantings that you are proposing are all, as I would agree with Chris Dow, are all in the right direction. And so there, I applaud your effort in that respect as he did, but plants are what are needed, I think, not lawns in this kind of environment. The other thing is the patio. I think that it's within the 100 feet. We have a rule that there is to be no construction, and only under very severe hardship to the owners of the land should there be construction in the 100-foot zone. So I really feel that the patio is a very bad idea in this location, considering the state of this property as it is now. Okay, that's all I have to say.
is it appropriate for me to comment back to Mr. Hayes at this time?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so I'm sure that there are USGS 5-foot contour maps that I could use that might help, but if anybody else, or if there's other maps that I can pull the topo in, I'd be happy to do so to ameliorate those concerns. I do also know that lawns have a high runoff coefficient, especially if it's compacted soil below the grass. But in restoring the site, we would make sure that the upper layer, the O horizon of soil, would have lots of organic matter in it. It would be spongy because then we wouldn't have to water it every day. And that too would absorb as much water as possible for lawn to absorb. Our view is that the rain garden depression would capture additional runoff that was flowing into the restored area. It was our intent to do that based on comments we had received from the Architectural Review Board. And so that would further enhance it. And it kind of works as a funnel because everything goes in that direction as it is. And in that direction, we would, plant lots of plants. I think there were 90 perennials in there and woodies that would suck up all the water before it got to the reservoir. Furthermore, we're not increasing any lawn. We're actually probably maintaining about the same. And what is not lawn now is erosive gravel and small particles of like cinder. So that would be removed, which is, as you pointed out, very erosive. So I think that our application is extremely sensitive to the nature and restoring and enhancing the buffer. And I do appreciate no more lawns. In fact, I'm known for taking out lawns and adding meadows. And that's what we want to do here as well, hence all the plants. Thank you.
Don, I have a question on the code. So the code says construction proposed within 100 feet of Tuxedo Lake. Is there a definition of construction in the code?
My interpretation, and I would love maybe Mr. Ledwith to refine my interpretation of it, is that it's very vague and it just refers to all construction. It's when we first endeavored to do this, we noticed that there were a lot of neighbors with dry set construction right along the water, which I have many pictures of that construction, and a lot of it's dry set. So I misinterpreted that and figured since there's no permanent foundations, it's literally rocks sitting on the soil, it would be permissible because it's not permanent. Having done this for a while, I figured that would be the least invasive type of patio we could make. But if
So
anybody
John, I was asking John Ledwith actually, but thanks, William.
Thanks.
John, you've mentioned previous meetings about doing something at grade. Doesn't need the same type of variance. Is that correct?
Yes, this is construction activity in my interpretation, within 100 feet of the reservoir. There's also, terrain alteration, and it would require a variance within 100 feet of the lake. I do understand the code may be vague in certain points, but I think the code's main prerogative really is to protect the environment and protect the neighbors from activity.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? How far from the lake is the patio? I mean, what's the closest point of the patio?
Well, I'm not, well, they don't show that, all right, but obviously the steps would be the closest construction, and that's showing at 10 feet.
I would just suggest that they add a measurement from where they want to put the patio as well.
Right, they show it 10. They show 10 feet for the start of the steps and the stones around the steps, and they probably should show what the patio is also.
Yeah, I mean that's a fairly it's a flat area. It's not natural, so I would think that the zoning board would want to consider, where it actually is.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I think that we really do need a topo, right, before we finalize things. So,
well, I mean, if you look at the existing property right now, it's just a flat area. It's an existing flat area that has nothing on it. It's eroding. It looks like garbage. Yep. And all they're doing is putting stone on top of it. I mean, you may consider that construction, but It's just papering over an existing flat area.
Yeah,
In fact, it'll be less erosive having this patio than it would where it exists now.
I concur. The patio is
Well, we
roughly.
don't, honestly, we don't really know that it's flat there, okay? Because we
No,
don't have. a
I
topo.
was there today. It's flat.
Yeah.
I think that the building inspector has determined that the patio is a structure. Is that true, John?
Yes, it is a structure, and the map that we're looking at right now shows the entire patio no more than 95 feet away from the reservoir. So the entire structure is within the 100-foot setback.
But the steps are not structure, or they are structure as well?
There's certainly a structure,
Okay.
and all the steps, the three sections are all within 100 feet of the lake.
Mhm. Okay.
Jake,
Cheyenne?
yes, I do. I raised my hand, but I can't see the tick on my screen. So I don't know whether you know that I would like to make a few comments.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm not interrupting anybody. First, I'd like to make a comment first, following on what Jim was saying about grass. Lawn grass basically has a root structure about at most 4 inches long or 4 inches deep, compared to roots of trees and shrubs and meadow grasses of more than 10 feet. Since the root system is the mechanism by which impurities and excessive nutrients are absorbed by trees and prevent and so that excessive nutrients don't get into our water and cause milfoil and harmful algae and so on and so forth. You can see why it is important that to retain trees and shrubs as much as possible, particularly, as Christopher Gow was saying earlier, mature trees, mature oak trees that have the deepest and the most extensive root systems. Now, I understand the importance of a view. I'm lucky that I have a view from way up. But I think a view can be achieved by pruning the trees as opposed to cutting them. But I'll just leave it at that. What I really want to focus on, listening to all of you talking tonight, is that it is regrettable that Tuxedo Park actually doesn't have stronger laws governing what we can do or what we can't do around our drinking water reservoir. I've looked at many communities in New York and throughout the United States, actually. Many of them, even much wealthier ones with much larger houses and therefore, sort of extensive investments on the part of the owners, they are moving towards much more stringent and stricter management of their natural resources. And Tuxedo Park, honestly speaking, is way behind the curve. So in the absence of definitive and clear laws as to what we can do around our drinking water reservoir, it's very important for the legislative boards like yourself and the planning board and the bar to make the right decision that is environmentally sound and good for everyone in the community. Even though I'm the first to say we also need to recognize the importance of individual property rights. But then we need to understand that sometimes what an owner would like to do on his or her property may have consequences for the entire community. So think about the precedent you are setting, the example you are setting by allowing construction within 100 feet of the reservoir. And to this last point, I'd like to make a distinction between landscaping and construction. I'm delighted that Mr. Boyce and the owner are thinking of planting all those wonderful trees and shrubs and sort of taking remedial measures about that badly constructed path. But the patio is an artificial construct. That to me is construction. That, in the absence of definitive statements in Tuxedo Park's law about building within 100 feet of a reservoir, I would hope that the BZA can actually look very closely at that particular part of the proposal, the patio, because that is construction, that is a structure, that creates more impermeable surface. Even though I think in the BAR presentation, Mr. Boyce said that he's going to sort of make it as pervious as possible, and then there will be a rain garden and so on and so forth. But I think I'd like to suggest that think of the president. Mr. Boyce and Sunnymead owner are environmentally sensitive. We can't guarantee that everyone else following will be. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
That covered quite a bit of ground there. I appreciate the common ground, if you will, of all being environmentally sensitive here. If I could just weigh in on some of the information provided, I know that native grasses in meadows where topsoil is 10 feet deep, the roots, sure, they grow 10 feet deep, but in a rocky terrain such as this, the roots generally aren't that deep. I feel as though this project is an incredible opportunity to showcase restoration. The gross majority of this project is geared towards improving the buffer, the 100-foot buffer. 700 plus plants within that space is a far cry from us going in and maliciously doing a lot of work. I agree that removing trees has a negative impact, but I mean, if I look at the balance of the properties on the water, which this is one, this is right on the water. And I don't know all the addresses here, but they're right on the lake. These rocks are right in the lake. This is nothing of the type of improvement that we see happening here. There's many other properties that I could bring into the attention of the board, but you guys probably know that.
Honestly, that one did not come in front of the zoning board.
And that's what scares me. Like, we're trying to propose something that's extremely sensitive, extremely forward thinking, and the reception that I appreciate the kind words, but the reception and the balance would dissuade savvy homeowners from wanting to come and then just doing it incorrectly against the wishes of the board because they don't want to expend the effort. I believe that our applicant, the McClellans, have taken great strides in hiring me, and I really appreciate it, to come up with the best plan, to weave it in and around the rocks, to find the existing flat spot, as Mr. Boyle pointed out, to put the patio, which I found another photograph illustrating that is the flat spot. And they're really trying to do the right thing, whereas other neighbors aren't as careful. They just say, oh, heck, we're not going to get approval. They just do it. We're not like that. Or to date, we haven't been. We're trying to do the right thing. But, I can't promise that the McClellans will be so willing to remove the existing gravel road up and around and through at their expense if they can't have 420 feet of bluestone sitting on existing flat area. So,
Mr. Boyce, excuse me, I don't think you can blackmail us like that. We're a board.
I'm not, I actually sit on the town council in my town, and I'm not one to blackmail people. I'm just suggesting that they've really put their best foot forward, and whereas the neighbors don't. And I don't think,
although if I can
in my professional opinion, they're not asking for that much.
there's one neighbor that did it allegedly illegally. The one that you just showed is 224 East Lake Road, which was approved within the last 2 years. The Bruners were also approved within the last.
Bruners were just a lot smaller of a project. Okay.
It's not.
You can't even compare
It's
the two.
not. It's a lot larger of a project with way more stairs, a much larger patio, and the same thing for the Habercorns. Many
The
more
Habercorns was an existing, and they actually cut back. All right, it was an existing stair that they cut back.
So it feels a little bit punitive, where we've tried to do our best. We agreed to take out the 4 trees we're already allowed to take out. We don't need permission for that. We can take out those 4 trees. We're trying to be as environmentally sensitive. We're trying to make the area way more beautiful than it was, because apparently everybody hates it, and
No, believe me, I would certainly, I agree with you. We want something done there. All right.
Right,
No
but
question about it.
I'm not going to pay thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to landscape a dust bowl for everybody else's pleasure if I cannot easily access my dock and I can't sit down there and enjoy it.
Let's just step back for a second. Let's just step back for a second here. We're having a discussion here. I don't think, at least to my knowledge, I'm not, we haven't said anything yet. We've asked a bunch of questions. So let's figure out what the sort of view is going forward, and then we can get into more detailed discussions on who does what to whom. So, Jake, where do we go from here in terms of?
Well, are there any other public comments at this point? I assume not. Elise, are you still here, Elise?
Of course.
Okay, you weren't coming up on the screen.
Yeah, I'm here. I think, Mr. Chairman, if you are going to ask for additional materials from the applicant, you may wish to keep the public hearing open.
Do you want to speak?
So
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment. So I appreciate all the concerns, environmental concerns. I do have to agree with the applicant that I think this is a major improvement to the area, and I don't feel that a 420 square foot patio is going to alter the ecology of the lake. I mean, I'm sorry, it's the way it's being constructed. I don't think that's going to be a impactful structure. And so I think it's, and I like this plan much better than the previous one that was put forward. I think they put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. I also say, even with the patio, it's likely to be more environmentally sound than the existing condition today. So if it's not just an improvement from a visual perspective, it's an environmental improvement as submitted versus the existing condition today. Also, and Jake, maybe you can clarify this in terms of what our charter really is here as the BZA is sort of the way I read it. We're approving the steps that they're looking to add, right? And we're approving the patio or not, but what's lawn or not is not in the purview of this board. Is that correct?
Well, the only consideration is that, if we're going to approve construction within the 100-foot setback, we need to take a look at the whole project, and what is its effect in the 100-foot setback.
Understood.
And
So since they are asking for approval, we're taking into context the entirety of the plan.
Elise, I would assume that that's, you know, in this particular instance, we would look at the whole project, correct?
Yes, you are deciding whether or not to allow construction of any kind within the 100-foot buffer. So yes, you're looking at the whole project.
I think that, again, as I said earlier, their patio is just covering an existing flat area. I appreciate the concern around trees and everything else, but I think they are doing a lot to mitigate those concerns with the, you know, existing or new plantings and everything else. And I believe if we, you know, that this is a, you know, this covers a lot of the questions I had in terms of not only the, you know, the setback, whatever, but also, you know, the overall beauty of the project and its overall, you know, positive impact on what is a strip mine looking thing right now.
I certainly agree that it's an improvement and it's moving in the right directions. I, number one, really think that a topo is really required for us to approve something like this. And I would also like to see more ground cover plantings in some of the areas that we pointed out, which, you know, talk about existing lawn, because they're really, that lawn areas are possible. Yeah, up where the path is, and then to the right of that. Where right now, where the start of your path, you know, off of your existing gravel path. No, the one that you're removing. Right, and that area, that there should be similar plantings in that area up to that, you know, wall where the existing gravel path is.
Mm.
And I would like to see a topo, and I would like you to consider saving some of those trees, because you're going to need a big piece of equipment to go down and cut that tree down. And then also, you know, you're going to need to take out the roots, I assume, unless you're going to stump grind it.
Actually, if we did take out the trees, I would leave the roots because they'll hold the slope all together. And then,
So you would stump grind it then?
Yeah, it wouldn't be an eyesore from the reservoir at all. At most, it would be stump ground, or we would dig around it and flush cut, sacrifice a few chainsaw blades, and then I know
Well, a stump,
horrible to hear that, but
grinding the stump would be easier, and
Yeah.
that's actually less disruptive.
Okay. Yeah, I would prefer to leave the roots in place and stump grind, as you're suggesting.
I may just make a comment. Yet with this project, the least disturbance possible. It's already a compromised site, so the least disturbance possible. So removing roots and that sort of thing is just a terrible thing. There is another option as well. A dead tree is called a snag, and that is some dead trees are more useful than live trees as far as the wildlife is concerned. And so for the McLennans to enjoy this garden, the more trees there are, the more birds there will be, and the more songbirds there'll be. And so that'll be a wonderful thing to hear as well, as far as the acoustics and aesthetics are concerned. The other point I just wanted to make was, yes, to make an exception for building within this 100 feet, something significant has to give in order for that to make this an exception. Yes, a small little patio is not going to make much difference. It's the principle that's being made here, that we're changing the rule for something. So yes, so I appreciate the McLennans and Mr. Boyce putting together this environmental sound thing, because that is the most fundamental thing. Is the aesthetics is important, but the environmental aspect is the huge deal here, because we don't want a chain link fence put around our reservoir, because too many projects like have happened by the lakeside, and that the DEC see that we're compromising our drinking water. So it is great that the McLennans are doing this, that are making it environmentally leaps in the right direction, so that the net gain, there has to be a net gain in this, and there has to be a good example to make up for all the other neighbors that got away with it in the past and made our lake look like Greenwood Lake as opposed to Tuxedo Park. This, with the boulders and the steps, is going to be looking more aesthetically like an Adirondack Lake as opposed to Greenwood Lake. And I think we all agree that's why we're here. And so the least suburban it looks, the least messed around with, the better. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
We seem, like, I personally would like to see more information and more on the drawings, okay, before I would be in a position to vote on it. And, I kind of expressed the fact that I think a topo would be required. I think additional. What?
We have one. There was an old topography report that was done on the property, which is what we had used when we had submitted for the pool.
Okay, but we don't have that as far as in front of us.
Okay, well, when we submitted
And it should be,
it wasn't requested.
Well,
It just seems like a lot of stuff comes up.
but like if, but I'm requesting it, okay, as far as for us to really review this, and I think that the topo should be required.
Okay.
Every other one that
I've heard 1 month ago when we turned this in.
I'm going to look for the topo.
And he's going to pull it up. And I don't know how these steps would be, worse than somebody putting in a brand new boathouse on the lake.
Well, a boathouse on the lake,
approved.
if you're bringing in things that the boathouse is carried over from an old code, all right? And people who had a boathouse on their property at a certain point in time are allowed to build a boathouse. It's part of the old code.
Thank you, Bill, for pulling this up.
As of 2008, right?
Should I check did somebody see that? This was revised in 2006, I see, but the water elevation probably is the same. Rock outcrops are the same. This is the extent of the topo that we have. Just trying to pan down to, I don't think my computer's happy with me. Okay, that's better.
Cliff, that's a cliff. It's steep, the whole thing is steep.
So wherever the contours are close together, it's very steep, as somebody pointed out. So this is really steep. This is where the cliff is up by the house. Since the inception of this plan, there was a road that was put through here, and I would say the dock is static. That hasn't moved. Has the dock moved? Anyone?
No, it has not.
Right. So,
no, but I mean, honestly, typically you get the landscape plan should have the topo on that plan, which shows the location of the patio, shows the location of the stairs, shows where they're coming out. I mean, this is somewhat, honestly, most of the time we're getting drawings, especially something that needs to be looked at closely. You should have a topo.
Understood.
I mean, Bill, you're
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah, I wasn't furnished that information within the area that we were working. So thinking that we would be, you know, maintaining the existing topography the way it is, with the exception of exactly where we're putting the steps and the patio, which is on the flat area. You know, we were trying to forego that step and expense for the owner. I'd rather put it in the plants. It's I understand where you're coming from. And it would,
I think
know,
it's
would help.
almost $4,000 for a new topography report.
Yeah.
So why, I mean, from the photos,
Topography
from the
hasn't changed.
drawings, from the photos and the drawings, I mean, I have a sense of the topography and I've been to the property. John's been to the property. Most of us have been to the property. So I'm not sure that would help me make a decision. So I'm not, in my view, I don't see it as needed.
I could do a center line by myself, you know, just indicating the bottom of the riser and the top of the riser. I could do spot elevations all the way through the pathway and reference adjacent trees, which obviously are staying and would be static, except for the 4 that are in question. And that way, you could be assured that the proposed steps are respectful of the base of the existing trees to remain. That would be not a heavy lift, and I could, you know, assure that in a note on the plan.
Where they're planting, and what they're planting.
So you could give kind of spot elevations.
Yeah. I could give top of riser, you know, bottom of riser at the bottom of the big steps, top of riser at the top of the big steps, and then just do stationing along the pathway to, you know, help the board feel more comfortable. It's not a heavy lift and it's not time consuming. I could, if the board were to, and I'm not suggesting this necessarily, grant approval for this conceptually, with the condition that I provide.
No, the
spot
board cannot, the board cannot
elevations.
do that. The board cannot do that.
I apologize for making an
That's okay.
assumption.
But that's okay. I
It's
don't
worth
want
the
you to go,
It was
go
worth a
much
shot. It was
further.
worth a shot anyhow, right?
All right, thank you for.
The board can only approve what is exactly in front of it. So,
Right.
Jake, does it make sense to have the discussion of the 6 points now, just to see if anything else comes up?
Not ready to vote.
Well, we're not voting, we're discussing the points.
Right.
We were on.
Well, other than this
You heard you.
topography request,
I would say the topography request and additional planting shown in the other areas, from my perspective, okay? Now, I'm not sure what other board members feel at this point in time.
I'm just trying to find my drawing.
I would like to see the topography topo regarding the stairs. If I can't.
I was there, I walked it. I'm comfortable with it because I actually saw it, was there, as opposed to seeing something kind of laid out, you know, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I have to agree, I'm comfortable too.
Yeah, I was also at the site today, so I saw it and believe this would be 100% better than the existing site.
Well, yes, anything would.
So it sounds like we have 3 members that are supportive.
And I would like to see more information. I would like to see the additional plantings and at least spot topography.
I'm pretty quick with AutoCAD. I could, if you could recess for a bathroom break, I can put more plants up there. It's, I'll do it right in front of you.
I would just make a point of order here that it is the chairman who calls for the vote.
Right. And can you put the additional plantings on?
Yes,
How
sir.
quick could you do that?
I just have to get the right drawing open. If that's okay with the applicant. It's,
Yeah, it's fine.
would you like a sidebar, applicant? I'd whisper to you, but I'm not sure how to do that in this forum.
Yeah.
Since we're all, is it okay if I text you quickly?
Yeah.
I think you can just chat.
Or you could just put it on mute and call her.
No, I mean, look,
No,
I mean, I'm
that would
happy
work.
to have additional plants. The whole point is planting down there. My understanding was this meeting was really about the dry laid terrace and the dry laid natural
Like I
stone.
said, we just need to look at that
not
because
the
of the
landscaping.
fact of that it's something being built in this 100-foot setback that we need to see the whole concept involved. And it's all part of, I mean, obviously, if the fact is that you weren't improving a bad condition, we would probably look at it a little even differently. But since we all are tired of looking at it, we can be more agreeable.
Yeah.
Plans? All right, so that's a polyline. I'll change this 100 to 200. I'll raise your 100, make it 200 of these carracks.
And then and then go to the area where it says lawnmower access slope, existing lawn. Like if we could go with more ground cover in that area, it would be great.
Just want to be able to get the lawnmower in that area, but I could bring that bed over to there.
Right.
And then I could do this and offset 1 foot, bring that around.
While you're doing that, I'm going to step away for 1 second.
Understood.
Oh, you are muted. It says raise hand.
Now, while you're doing that, there's one thing that kind of kicked up about DEC approval. Now I think that, and Elise, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not for us. We would need to give this project approval before they could go to DEC to see whether they could get a permit, correct?
Well, what would happen is the BAR obviously can't move forward until the zoning board makes a decision. If you grant variance, then they go to the BAR. The BAR's decision would be conditioned on any permits that they might need from the DEC. Whether they need permits or not, I'm not positive. But if they do, in my experience, the DEC doesn't typically give a permit unless there's an approved plan.
Right.
Did that make sense?
So they would need the number one first the BAR would need a approval from the BZA. And then
Yes.
they would take the approval from the BAR if necessary, if a permit is required.
Yeah, and the BAR I would think that the BAR would find that out.
Okay.
I'm not sure from reading.
Because I read the regulations that were sent over by the DEC,
Mhm.
and it's somewhat ambiguous. And a lot of it has to, quite frankly, do with the slope. And that is one of the reasons that I would look at the topo, because I think the DEC the slope is critical to the DEC as far as approval.
Mhm. Well, certainly the zoning board, at a minimum, could condition on compliance with all, state environmental laws. I mean, that's kind of a given, but you could put that in your approval.
Okay.
Any required permits, et cetera.
Well, while he's doing that, do we want to then, I think maybe we go through the points?
Okay.
Elise, you want to take us, why don't you take us through the points?
So the first point would be whether granting the variance or variances will produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood.
I certainly would say that it would not, and that from a landscape sense, it is certainly a great improvement. So
I
anyone
agree.
else comment?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that box is checked.
That box is checked. That's a good way to put it.
Whether the benefits sought by the applicant could be achieved in some other way.
They're improving an existing condition, so I don't think it really applies.
So that's really.
Except for the fact of they are adding new things, and yes, that could be done another way, but the steps really, I guess, would be required. And I guess, William,
Yes.
the step is, are there currently right now, they got around the steps because they swung that path all the way and around and then did it on a gradual basis to eliminate the requirement for steps?
Exactly, but we found that that's more erosive because it's kind of steep. So by adding the steps, we're reducing erosion and making it safer because it's not like a cindery, marbly.
Yeah, having been there today, it's not especially safe right now.
Well, I was told, so I wanted to go there today, and Sonia told me, don't, because it's all iced over.
It is iced over, but that's
why I went across the lake and I took a picture with my cell phone and blew it up on my phone, and it worked just as well.
That helps. Yeah.
Are you
Well,
ready?
the answer to the question is they want the patio there to facilitate everything they want to do. I do not believe there's anything, there's no other way for them to do it. So the answer to that point is no.
Okay. Whether the
requested variance is substantial. And again, it
yeah.
may be substantial, but that alone would not preclude granting the variance. So how does the board feel about that? Do they feel that it's substantial?
I would feel that it's substantial, but that,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe the steps are substantial, but I think the patios may be slightly different.
Well, I think and again, to the point, it does not disqualify this from approval. It is, when you talk about doing something within the 100 feet, that is, that's substantial.
Substantial, yes.
That's it. I mean, that does not preclude approval, as Elise said.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I view it as they're not constructing a building, right? That would be different.
Okay. So it's less intrusive?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district.
In this particular case, it would be an improvement.
Yeah, I would say no. Yes, improvement.
Yeah,
They're pretty improvement, so I think that's what we know.
Okay, and then the final is whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
actually, I don't think it is because it was a poor condition. You know, it was created by somebody
actually, I
else.
think it was
It
actually.
was created by somebody else and they're trying to fix it.
Exactly. I would argue it's created by somebody else and they're actually fixing it. Yes.
Okay, those are the 5 factors.
Would that be the right response to number 5, Elise?
Yes, it's an existing condition that they're trying to remedy to the greatest extent that they can. So they did not create it.
Correct.
Although I guess you could argue that they could leave it alone, right? I mean, all variances are to one degree or another self-created. You could always just do nothing. Anyway.
All right, William, how you doing on your AutoCAD?
I'm all done. I could send it to print now if you'd like.
Can you
Well,
why don't you run through it with us then, what your changes you made?
all right, I added a note to try to make the grading concept easier to swallow. I added a note that says grading within the proposed work area to be within 12 inches of existing grades at all times.
Okay.
So that, I mean, proves that my steps like really flow with the landscape. Okay. And walkway. So I thought that was, I will show you the planting layout. So I brought the plants, the entirety of this edge of this gravel, and added 300 CSPs. I did also then update the plant schedule to reflect those in, this is called paper space. In paper space is where I print from. So the CSPs are Carex speciosa, but then I wrote approved equal. Now I can take the approved equal out, but I don't want to create a monoculture of Carex, and I'm sure that Christopher Gow and all the environmentalists
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, it's just
we'll leave. We could leave that up to the BAR as far as arguing about the plants. That we just want.
Okay.
We want the area covered.
And then so I covered that. I added the note about the grading. Don't think I did anything else except for update the date on the drawing to 3/2/22 as the revised date. If that, for procedural purposes, that helps. I can create 3 PDFs of this and send it to Mr. Ledwith at any time you'd like.
Lisa, that'd be sufficient then before we go?
Yes. You know, any action you take tonight will be based on this plan that the board is being shown now to be emailed to John immediately, as soon as possible.
Okay.
I've never done this before. This is
either. I don't think we have either. All right.
Thank you for being so accommodating. I mean, not that we are approved, but in process. This is one for the records.
And we're good. At least we're good with this. Then we're good, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you can see exactly what you're approving, then it is not a, then that's okay. Otherwise, you're just giving an opinion, you can't really do that.
So I'm
You can't
sorry.
give an advisory. You can't do an advisory vote, is what I'm saying.
Well, the other question I had, Melanie, are you good with this?
Yeah, I don't know what was it, CBs or PVs are. I just hope they're not incredibly expensive and they're very beautiful.
No. The changes are, put it this way, it would save you money by not coming back next month, okay?
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it.
I'm assuming at least that we would be ready to vote on this print that we have in front of us dated 3/2/22.
Just, you would close the public hearing and then you would call for a vote.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would like to make a motion to vote approval on the drawing that has been revised at 3/2/22. That has been presented to us. Board vote.
You need a second?
Second.
Pardon me, second.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Dave.
Is that Dave? Okay, I don't see everyone on my screen, so, okay.
He's wearing the blue sweatshirt.
Jake,
Go ahead.
Jake,
Yes,
are we voting on both the steps and the patio? Can't we separate them?
we could separate them if you'd like to vote, if you'd like to separate.
That's kind of a bad idea, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay,
Honestly. I mean, you're looking at, we talked about looking at the plan as a whole.
okay, agreed.
Right.
We're voting on the plan as shown 3/2, which includes both the steps and the patio and the plantings and the rocks removal and the stone removal of the existing path, the drawing and cut. Go around, John,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Nancy,
No.
Jake, yes.
Jake,
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We'll make you proud. Don't worry.
Thank you. We hope everyone loves it once it's done.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Very much.
No,
And if anybody knows where we can buy some carrots, that'd be great.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay,
Very much.
and then William, you'll send copies of this drawing right away to John?
I'm going to send John PDFs of it immediately before I leave the office. And if he has any, if I did something wrong or spelled something wrong, I'm sure I could send another one tomorrow, if that's procedurally okay.
That's okay. Any minor, just to correct something is fine.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it, so I have it, so you can't change
Okay.
it.
All right. I can send it to you too if you'd like. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Take care.
Good. Elise, we have to approve minutes of our meeting of January 5th. Do I have to close? We already closed the public part of the meeting.
Well, you only closed the public hearing. You haven't actually closed the meeting. So yes, you can take care of some business now.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes to the meeting of January 5th, 22. Has
Second.
anyone had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Are we, do we need to do anything else, or did we approve it, or we just approved the minutes to the meeting to open the meeting to do it?
I'm sorry?
Oh, did we approve the minutes to the meeting?
Yes. you did.
Okay, okay, good. Then that's it.
Okay.
Bye.
I will draft this resolution and get it out to you within the next couple of days.
Okay, great.
All right. Goodbye,
night,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Night.
Good night.